On this episode, I'm going to use markers to create a style called spontaneous Spencerian, something very similar to it, not exactly, but similar. Another name for it was called copper plating because instead of it being written, it was etched in the metal with ink into the reservoirs, and it was printed in books, used to print in books. So this Rose Art one, of course, Rose Art and Crayola. Rose Art has a much thicker angle. This one's more acute, so you have a finer tip. So if I want wider strokes, I would use this one. Actually, I can get some really wide strokes from this one, even though it looks like a smaller tip. This angle is wider, and this one is pointier. So for lack of a space with the camera that I'm using, I'm going to use the Crayola. And we're going to go over the alphabet, and I'm going to get into this immediately. So, to do our strokes, we're going to go thin. We're going to go thin on the upstrokes and thick on the downstrokes, okay? And this is going to be the basis of all of our lettering. Thin up, thick down. That's going to be the difference. Alright, so now we're going to start with the letter A. So we're going to go thin up, thick down. We're going to go thin up, thick down, and thin up. Okay? And you can get fancy with crossing your A. Now for B, same thing. Thin up, thick down, thin up. Okay? Thick down, thin up, thick down, thin up, thick down, thin up, thick down. Okay? You can make your B a lot more simple than what I made it if you want. If you want to stop at this stroke, you can. But for what we're doing, we're just having fun. For the letter C, thick down, thin up, thick down. I did forget to mention that I'm using just regular notebook paper. I'm not using a practice pad, an expensive practice pad, and the point is to cut the costs on how expensive it is to invest in doing calligraphy. I'm just using markers from Walmart. And for our spacing, I did forget to mention I'm just using three areas. 1, 2, 3 lines, okay? Start from here, 1, 2, 3. So now I'm going to do the letter D. Thin up, thick down, and I'm going to break a rule. I could go thin up, but I can start here because in the episode before I talked about pulling all the time with the flathead markers for pulling. Now I'm going to use that rule here just so you can see the difference between the D and the B with that line. So I'm going to pull here. What's going to happen, it's going to be thick here, and thin in the middle, okay? I'm going to go thick again, thin up, thick down, and thin up again for the letter D, okay? Here's the letter E. We're going to go thick down, thin up, thick down, thin, thick and thin. And I'm going to get a little closer so you can see what my spacing was like. So thick down, about center, thin, thick, and I came down a little further to the second line. So it's top heavy with a thin bottom, and it's actually a little bit like us human beings, very human, where we're thicker at the top and we have thin legs holding us up. So it's thin. It's small at the bottom and bigger at the top. That's E. So now I'm going to skip a space. So I'm going to go thick down for the letter F, thin up, and I'm kind of in the middle. I'm going to go sort of a medium stroke for the middle. Now thick down, thin up, thick down, and across in the middle. I could have gone the other way. I could have gone thin up, thick down, and then thin up like that, thick down. So now you're getting to see the difference between the direction I started. There are no right and wrongs. I don't care what anybody says. It's about style, what your style is, which one you like better. I personally like the thick on here than this, but you can go either way. If you wanted to go back and make this thick, you can. So you have choices in calligraphy what looks better. Your style is always going to change because you're going to be doing Christmas cards, greeting cards for somebody, get well, just a note to somebody, and you want it to look nice. So the rule of thumb is that if it looks beautiful, you're there. Kind of like food. When you go to chef school, the food, one of the criteria is it has to look good. And what looks good to you is going to be relative to the person. Not everybody's going to agree. Don't worry about that. We're going to start with the letter G. Thick on the way down, thin on the way up. Thick. So now we're going to go thick down. We're going to stop there at our line, thin up, and then kind of across. Again, let's do a variation. The point of the way I want to teach, and why I like teaching, is to teach freedom in art, not just restrictive rules, but freedom. If you wanted to go crazy on this G, thick down, thin up, thick down, you can. Because if you're doing a card for somebody, sorry, I should show you that again. Let's do that one more time. So, thick, thin up, thick down, thin, up. And now I'm going to bring my paper a little up to the top. We're going to start thick and create that beautiful G, okay? So, don't worry, we're going to finish the alphabet, okay? Now let's start my G right here. So remember, 1, 2, 3. So that's our spacing, okay, on our notebook paper. So we're going to thick down for the letter H, thin up, thick down. What's nice about the English language and the way we write, it's unlike Japanese or Chinese where you have to start in a particular spot, and there's some common sense with the direction that we write that you want to start certain places. And But if you wanted to be creative and start in a unique place, you know, I'm not going to tell you now. So, letter I. I'm going to be creative again. Thick down. You can make your lines ultra thin if you want on the way back up. Get them as ultra thin as you can. And then you can go back and like any details. I had a great art teacher in college that, you know, if there was something crooked or something that wasn't quite right, you could go back and do little details and make it clean. Thick down. Okay, I'm going to stop right there. And then thick down for my letter I. Okay. Thick down. Thin up for my letter J. And thick down. Now you can use the side of your marker if you wanted to create a nice thick looking J. And of course I can come back down with another thick line right there. Or I could have started here, go this way, thick down. Let's go with another J. That's just one style of J. I'm trying to give you choices of what you think will look good. So we're going to go thin up. This one's more traditional. Thick down. And then thin back up. Okay, now we're going to go to the letter K. So we're going to do our spacing again. Start here, 1, 2, 3. You can start from the bottom, 0, 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to go thick down, thin up, thick down. Okay, I made it as a descender, but you'll see when I finish the K that it's going to be right on the line. Thick down, thin up. And because I'm moving in the direction of the angle of my pen, I don't have a thick option on this type of a pen. This isn't really a true calligraphy pen, but you can improvise, change some of the line thickness if you want. And be very creative with it. Another way to do your letter form is up, thin, down, thick, thick, down, and like that. Okay? So you have options. Now just to clarify something that I did is that anything that's below your line here is called a descender. And here's the line of your letter. Anything that goes above it is called a ascender. Again, everything that goes below it is called a descender in your letter forms. The reason why I'm showing you calligraphy with this kind of a marker is that if you don't have the option of buying a flathead, that you can still do beautiful writing with this kind of marker. You don't feel limited because you don't have a flat-tipped marker or a tip that splits in half for the Spencerian styles. So let's do the letter L. You're gonna have fun. Down thick, up thin, down thick, up thin. And I didn't do a descender on my letter L. And right here I have an ascender on my L. Whatever looks beautiful. If you want to follow the rules and just go straight, no ascenders and descenders, except for like J and G type of letters, that's perfectly fine. I'll do a couple different M's, okay? So I want to go thick down, thin, thick, thin, thick, thin, thick. Okay? We're going to finish off the letter. The purpose of finishing it would be to go into your small case letters. Then we can go thin, thick, thin, thick, thin, thick. Okay? And I'm repeating it again and again. This is one lesson, but I want you to understand the habit of the thick and the thin, the beauty of the thick and the thin. The better choices are going to be where you decide you want to begin on the letter, but there's only so many choices. If you want to do a loop, of course you're going to start here. If you want to do this little flag before the M, you can. You can start there. So these two have a different beginning of the letter. So get in the habit of doing my spacing for you guys. So here is going to be, anything above it is the ascender and the descender line. I'm trying to introduce more stuff as we go along so I don't overwhelm your brain. So we're going to start from the ascender, just a little bit above, come down thick, go up thin, down thick, up thin, down thick. Finish the letter. Okay? And another variation like we did before, just a little, using the little flag, down thick. You can get as fancy as if you want. You can do it as a little bit of an ascender. The beauty of your styles overall is going to be your consistency of your letters, how they will all look together. But I'm just giving you variations on angles and things you can do. See the difference that you can do with just a thin and a thick. You can even do a more printed style. That way you don't feel limited in what style that you're going to do it. You don't have to do it in my style. You know, you might have something in mind. The purpose of this lesson is to give you tools and add to your arsenal, not to limit your possibilities. Here is an O. We're going to go thick down, thin up, thick down for a beautiful letter O. And do my spacing again for you guys. 1, 2, 3. And I'm doing this that way it's easier to keep track here on a video. So I'm running out of space. I'm going to start speeding things up. Up thin, down thick. Now your philosophy is going to change. I stopped almost halfway, not even on a line, like right around here. Letters look good top heavy, especially capital letters. So I'm going to go all the way down to that second line and then come back up. They both look nice. This one I came down, straight angle down, and this one when I came down the line, then I angled up. I don't want you to feel like you're doing anything wrong in any way when you start doing this on your own. I just want you to feel like, you know, there's so many different possibilities. So this one, I'm going to come back down on the line. So you can see some differences. This one, almost halfway. I didn't quite go down to the line. This one I angled away, came back up. This one I stayed angling down again. Came down the second line on this one. Came down the second line on that one, and angled right into the shaft of this letter right here. So starting from here, thick down. We'll do a couple of different letter cues. So it's going to look like just like my O, right? And then I'm going to take my pen, I'm going to twist it, I'm going to go up, thick, and thin. Okay? We probably could have done that for letter K. I'm going to back up and do that letter K again. Thin, thick, thick down again, thin. As I turn around, I'm going to re-angle my pen like this. That way I can get a thick line. And then up, thin. And of course, what I just taught you now is becoming increasingly more advanced as we go along. Because before we just kept our pen in the same position to keep it easy. But now that you're getting in a habit, you're learning that calligraphy is also the possibility of twisting your pen to get what you need. So we just added one more tool to your arsenal. So we're going to do the letter R. Thin, or thick down, thin up, thick down, thin up, thick down, like that. Now I'm going to twist my pen again for this letter R. That way you can see the beauty of being able to twist your pen as a new tool for your calligraphy. Bam! That's a hot letter R. Now you can do more. New piece of paper. 0, 1, 2, 3. That's my rule of thumb for this lesson is 0, 1, 2, 3. So 0 is the background line, 1, 2, 3. And I'm saying that in case you're coming in the middle of the video. So we're going to do several different S's, okay? Thin up. This is going to be top heavy again. Thick down. All the way down to the second line again. Okay, we're down to the second line. Thin again. Thick. Thin. Here's a more traditional S. Thin. Oh, sorry, thick. Thin. Thick. Thin. Thick. Thin. Now we're going to go thick down across, thin going up. This one's bottom heavy, okay? So I'm staying around the angle of the first line. Thick. Just several different ways to look at your letters, how you want to do them. So now we can compare which letter is going to be the best. This almost turned out looking like a letter G. Calligraphy through history has had a tendency to make its letter forms even at the expense of legibility, being able to read it. So it depends on what your message is. Is it clarity? Does it want to be read, or is it decorative? Decorative isn't always Legible. It can be a compromise between legibility and decorative aesthetics. You know, thick for the letter T. Up. Now I'm going to angle my pen for this letter T. Remember, we're twisting our pen. Bring my camera a little closer. So I went that thick, thin. When I got to here, I went thin, up, thick, down on a down, kind of the downstroke. If you don't connect your lines, you can always just go back and tidy it up. That's always recommended. I go thin up, thick down, thin up, thick down. That's one version of a letter T. You can go thick, thick again. On this T, you can see how I didn't quite connect. It's almost a brush stroke. Thick, and then I just, at the angle that I came into the horizontal line, and I left it like that. So now for the letter U. So we're going to go down, thick, make sure we do our lines so we don't lose track, thick, thin, thick, thin. So we're going to make kind of a letter V out of this, and then we're going to turn it into the letter U. Thick down, bam, okay, and thick, thin, thick, down. Now you have a choice. You can go thin up if you want to continue it this way, right? Or thick down, thin up, thick, thick, because they're both downstrokes. Depends on your approach, how you want to approach your letter, okay? So, thick down, thin up, thick, thin up, thick, thin up. Okay? There you go. Bam. A little decoration. Let's get our lines, 2, 3. Notebook paper is great because you can get it so cheap, and you can just go through this stuff and come up with all kinds of practice stuff and decorate and design and practice on it before you do the real thing. Get some good habits. It's really cheap and it's really available. Thin. I'm going to angle my pen for the letter X. Thin. And then thick. Right? And thin up. Then for my downstroke, I'm going to go thick and then thin for a fancy letter X. The cursive way that we can turn into Spencerian is thick, thin. So you're really doing a 96. And thick, thin, thick. 96. Yes, I know what you're thinking. And then thick down, thin up, thick down, thin up, thick down. That's Y. And thick down, thin up. Now I'm going to change the angle of my pen. We're going to make this really calligraphic, okay? And we're going to come down, thin. Then I'm also going to bring another thin line down into it. I just broke a rule. You can add some great. Normally we go thick down again, or we go thick down, thin up, twist the pen, and get a thick line. So let's do a variation. Let's do our lines. That way you can see, not get lost. So thick down, thin up. Okay, now thick down, thin up, then thick. Thick down, thin. Let's angle this a little bit better. So you can get real fancy with your letter Z. If you don't like the double Z, just do one. Thick. Thick on the downstroke. Angle. Thick. Sorry about that. Or thick across, thin, thick, for some dynamic lettering. To open up your possibilities for your letter styles. I'm going to throw one more. We're going to advance a little bit further, so we'll go back to the letter A. You can, let's say you need something thicker for, like, say, a science fair project, and you needed to really get some thick letters. Of course, you can't find stuff that's too much thicker, so we're going to double the space here, okay? And so we're going to show you how to do a nice big letter. So thin up, thick. We're going to double the size of the thickness of that line. Go thin again. Double the size of that line again to create our letter A. And it looks more and more beautiful. Now let's try tripling the size, okay? Thin, thick, thick, thick. So now you got some nice wide black line work. Thick, thick, thick. So now I just increase your possibilities again with your letter styles. Okay, so now you can do beautiful lettering for a poster or for science fair project where you have to have larger lettering. And finding sticky letters to put on the board is real difficult to find something that even looks nice. Please feel free to leave your comments. I'm going to be posting more calligraphy videos for you guys. Tune into my channel, LYNX777, link 777 if there's no spaces. And I hope you had fun watching. Thanks. Almost burped. Take care.